Men going their own way. Just another business? Welcome. You have reached the YouTube video limbo of Christian weirdness. It is Saturday the 23rd of February 2018. Compromised content. How probable is it that a large fraction of the MGTOW content creators match all those idealist criteria, such as unseared conscience, high resilience in face of social or financial stress, intelligence, and the discipline to keep the love for money at bay? Not very probable, right? If you want to know how to gain usable data concerning MGTOW content creators, please watch my next Simple Solution to Drain the MGTOW Money Swamp video. Add to that many choose to stay anonymously and therefore choose not to divulge certain crucial informations concerning their backgrounds and history. How trustworthy can they be concerning uncompromised content? One may interject that exactly because many are anonymous, they have no reason to compromise their content. They are standing for a concept, not for a person, because they do not have to fear personal backlash for the information they put out. I would add to that, yes, they have no reason to compromise their content for fear of backlash, but they still have a reason to compromise their content for monetary gain. And let's be honest, the MGTOW YouTube community is far too emotional and heated right now to not show open flanks to deceivers and lucre lovers. And this community is not yet at the stage more technically oriented communities have reached. And it is understandable. You, even me, and other men going their own way have been traumatized, are angry, and therefore want to hear what satisfies them emotionally and not necessarily what benefits them on the long run. Especially if it sounds or feels inconvenient. I'm not saying this applies to all men going their own way, but it's not a stretch to say it's a majority that is still in the so-called red pill rage. Maybe it's a 51 to 49 majority, or maybe a 90 to 10 majority. I simply do not know exactly. But a quick browse through the comment sections of various MGTOW content creator videos shows the reality of the red pill rage and also allows to draw conclusions as to the amount of men going their own way still in the red pill rage. SelfDriven into the corner. And concerning content creators, how do you know if they have conscience? How do you know if what they tell you about themselves is the truth? How do you know if they are smart enough to see the risk of diminished income by compromising for monetary gain? How often have you heard any MGTOW content creator talking about such concepts? So it is safe to assume that many of them will rather choose not to talk about certain topics for fear of diminished income, even if these topics contain crucial truths for men going their own way seeking advice. I mean, this is one of the reasons I created this channel. I created it so that men going their own way can hear about this topic from the perspective of a true Bible believer, with all its consequences. But let's just say it is the majority of YouTube MGTOW content creators who puts money over truth. On what base would I make that assumption? I simply listened to a large amount of MGTOW YouTube advocates, and quite a few at some point or another told frankly that they now earn more than in their former occupations, and many of them were not low-wage slaves. They were earning good money before. You do not believe me? Check them out yourselves and search for it. You will hear them boast about making more money as content creators with Patreon, selling books, through sponsorships etc. than before. You can hear them telling that they started it as a hobby or side occupation, and now they could give up their former full-time jobs. And I would assume that it is quite some dependency for these guys if all the money rolling in is generated through content creation and sponsorships. Would you not think so? Without really noticing, they have driven themselves into a corner as now they are economically dependent on that revenue coming in through content creation. And as I said, it is more difficult to stick to the truth and make money as MGTOW content creator than it is on other fields of topics. Because the MGTOW audience is for good reasons quite passionate and emotional. Just read the comments of any MGTOW video on YouTube, and you see what I mean. Of course there can be exemptions. MGTOW content creators who earn money and still have uncompromised content. But how high is the probability to find one, given what I have explained already? Evidence of naivete. Add to that another evidence for the naivete of many men going their own way. They seem just to believe these stories these MGTOW YouTube advocates tell about themselves. On one video, where DDJ tells the heart-wrenching story about his terrible experience in his marriages and in the legal system, among 300 comments, I found only one asking for any kind of proof or evidence that the story is correct. 1 out of 300. That is a percentage of 0.333. That is shockingly low. Of course, I'm not saying that DDJ on his Misandry Today channel is lying. He could tell the truth. But he gives no evidence of his story being true. And personally, I see no reason anymore to give him the benefit of the doubt. However, it is understandable that many men going their own way do not ask for proof or evidence concerning these stories. As any man going his own way, they know exactly how terrible it can be to get no fault divorced or end up in jail for failing to pay child support. So they are open to the story being told, and they feel compassion for the person rather than critically investigating the truthfulness of the story. It is understandable. But the MGTOW community has to become more investigative and less naive, without becoming cynical. As I already said, MGTOW has grown out its idealistic phase. And the risk is that when MGTOW money scammers and filthy lucre lovers get busted, that it will make men going their own way cynical in droves. I want to prevent exactly that. You having a sound mind and being critical is crucial to you, for not being discouraged through disappointments further down the road. And how do you know if these guys are telling the truth? If they as content creators want to stay anonymous, fine. But then they should spare us the heart-wrenching stories which cannot be verified anyways, since you are anonymous. Bad for them then. But sorry, their stories could very well be nothing more than a sales pitch. And why should I give people the benefit of the doubt when they already stood out with shadier behavior? As it was, for example, the case with DDJ and his Misandry Today channel. I'm not asking you to be cynical about men going their own way in general, but I ask you to have some common sense. Did snake oil salesmen not tell the best stories? Just with the catch that there was no way to check them back? So if these guys choose not to offer any proof or evidence of their claims, there's really no reason to buy into these stories. Are not the same guys rightfully criticizing the listen and believe doctrine of courts in the Western world in case of rape accusations from women? Why should the same people now expect a listen and believe policy from their audience? So do we have MGTOW snake oil salesmen and hucksterists among us? Time will tell. But I'm quite sure about it. And just in case that someone thinks that provision of evidence or proof is inevitably linked to doxing oneself, I have to add that it's very well possible to give evidence or proof without losing one's anonymity. Names in documents can be blanked, for example. Of course, it makes the evidence less convincing, but it is still better than nothing. So dear filthy lucre lover, get your falsified evidence ready. Lying will get more expensive in the MGTOW community. It was far too cheap for far too long in the first place. Open discourse. Why is compromised content of MGTOW advocates such a big deal to me? Why am I so into this topic? Am I a monetized content creator maniac? Well, one, if not the most important pillars to the MGTOW phenomena is the truth. The truth about sexual dimorphism, the truth about the legal situation concerning men and women, the truth concerning social sciences and statistics, the truth about the history of matriarchism, patriarchism, and their relation to the development of the Western civilization in particular, to lesser degree also other civilizations. The truth about biblical doctrines and events and how these transpire into the philosophy of men going their own way. So if the truth is compromised by content creators and advocates for monetary gain, it causes the greatest damage to the MGTOW philosophy, greater than feminism and crazy activists could ever achieve. Because how can one reach the truth? How is the truth being made accessible? Through an open and honest discourse maybe? By publishing the truth and nothing but the truth maybe? If MGTOW content creators compromise their information for monetary gain, they compromise the way to the truth for a huge number of men who have not yet arrived there. These MGTOW money hypocrites basically break the spine of the MGTOW philosophy in the public view, not just now, but for the future too. Add to that MGTOW opposers and beta cucks and money sellouts will use any internal MGTOW scam to discredit the philosophy, which poses the biggest threat to their particular way of life and their spoils of activism. MGTOW is the only philosophy or teaching aside from the Bible itself which has the potential and offers solutions how to regain justice and order in the Western world. Not that I believe this would happen in the near future. I'm too much a realist to fall for this. Nevertheless, this is why MGTOW money hypocrisy is a big deal to me, and it should be the same for you. Men going their own way lives from an open discourse, and if you are compromising this pillar of sound advice for monetary gain, you do therefore the greatest conceivable damage. When you compromise for money, you do not anymore worship whatever God you may have chosen before. You only worship Mammon. And so should you be with your new Lord Mammon now, and stay out of the men going their own way philosophy. True salvation. The man going their own way phenomenon is a way for men to find true salvation further down the road, as they can realize that the man going their own way philosophy is actually largely part of biblical doctrines. Even if they are yet unsaved, this simple fact could convince them about the relevance of the King James Bible and thus try to seek true salvation in Jesus Christ. And therefore I will defend this philosophy. I will not allow other content creators to ruin this narrow gate, this potential gate for finding true biblical salvation. In case you are a Christian MGTOW content creator, you in particular should keep this in mind when compromising for filthy lucre's sake. A huge number of men has been taken advantage of, have been cheated, maltreated, misjudged, and traumatized by women and the emasculated Western societies. These men can still find the man going their own way philosophy or have already found relief in this way of life. Their bad experiences have given them a thirst for righteousness, which has opened their spirit to hear the message of true salvation. If they are discouraged through liars and compromising content creators, they may become cynical and not reach the stage at which they are willing to accept salvation through Jesus Christ. That is exactly why compromised MGTOW content is such a big deal to me. Matthew 5, 1-12. And seeing the multitudes, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him. And he opened his mouth, and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are ye, when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. As you can see, many men going their own way already possess the mindset that opens them for an honest dialogue concerning biblical topics and their salvation through their bad experiences. Many of them already match the criteria given in this Bible passage. MGTOW hypocrisy resume. In essence, there is nothing wrong with monetization. But if you betray your viewers to get more ad revenue, you are crossing a line. I also support the idea of Patreon. But when you choose to ignore information or other content creators for fear of diminished income, you have officially become a MGTOW money hypocrite. And you need to be marked by other men going their way accordingly. You as a viewer and supporter have made these compromisers big, and only you can decrease them. It is in your hand, and you are in the Lord's hand, even if you think you are not. So make the right choice, because it will have great consequences for you and for millions of other men and women. Men going their own way phenomena is based on social sciences, history, religion, and philosophy. If you compromise your information on one of these aspects, you are losing credibility. And compromising your research and content for monetary gain supports political or other kinds of activist groups which have a different endgame than truth and research and your well-being. Unfortunately, many men have been traumatized, and this leaves a certain probability that also MGTOW content creators are affected by split personality disorders or narcissistic behaviors, or just lying, or even sociopathic. It is in your hands as audience or listener to verify or falsify the authenticity of the content creators and their content in the MGTOW realm and also beyond that. Fight fake with facts. Not by BS testing, not through harassment, but through honest and open scrutiny and communication with other content creators. Not for public outrage and monetary gain through scandalizing, but to probe the true conditions under the hood and warn other men going their own way about potentially or provably compromising content creators. What gives MGTOW credibility is the fact that it is supported by objective truths and scientific data, such as sociological studies. These truths justify men going their own way. These truths about sexual dimorphism, the history of patriarchal societies, and the opposing matriarchal societies based on communism, socialism. The truths about the Bible, the actual originator of the man going their own way philosophy, which already existed long before that name even was invented. Long before it appeared as a large-scale sociological phenomenon. If content creators choose to compromise at one of these aspects, other men will sooner or later pay the price, as they will not have a complete picture that allows them to make fully informed decisions in their lives. Also, sooner or later, the compromiser will pay the price in the form of diminished reputation and income. Is it worth it? You have it in your hands. And for those who support compromisers and content creators without necessary scrutiny, the one who controls the predominant societal narrative controls the people. Are you willing to throw money at someone who wants to control you by controlling the narrative you are receiving? And to the compromisers, it's a small step from a MGTOW filthy lucre lover to an ideologue. Just be aware of the involved risks related to the actions you choose. What will be your share of the MGTOW business when you are exposed as an ideologue? As someone devolving MGTOW into a form of activism for financial gain? Is that what you want? Polluting the men going their own way community with entryism? But no one has to listen to me. I could be anything, a multi-billionaire or a homeless guy or a genius or an idiot. It doesn't matter. I do not want you to believe my story or history. I only put out information to help you, and there is no financial benefit for me in helping and supporting you. So I do not have to compromise my message. I do not ask you to believe my background story, because right now it doesn't matter. I do not want your pity. I do not need your admiration, and I do not need and expect you to believe or trust me or give me the benefit of the doubt. As all information here is proven and provable and reprovable by you. Monetization in general is not wrong, but very delicate and dangerous. And if you have listened through to this point, you probably got squeezed for money through feminism and or men going their own way advocates. Just make sure that advocates for whatever cause won't trick you into spending money uselessly again. Or one day you will be in for a rude awakening, just like me.